Good morning, friends. I wanted to share a Monday motivation with you guys on a topic that Tina Call loves called Figure It Out. In fact, if you can look on her t-shirt, she's got a t-shirt that says Figure It Out. And I loved this message and I thought it was important to share. In fact, I will link underneath. I'll try to remember to post her full speech in Cabo because it was really great. But um she shares this story about how and I should just have had her do it in her own words. She shares the story about how she got off the soccer field. She played one of her best games. She looks and scans the crowd to find her parents, and they're not there again. And she shares the orange slices and the kids getting their hugs and hopping in their minivans and leaving with their parents after this game, and how she's just left there to kind of figure it out. She talks about how earlier in that morning she'd asked her mom, "Would you be at my soccer game?" Her mother, who fostered and took care of kids with disabilities throughout Tina's entire childhood, shared, I can't be there. I have to take care of your sister. And when Tina asked, "Well, how am I going to get home?" Like, what, she's told her lovingly, "Figure it out." In fact, I love this. You go to Tina's Facebook page right now, you can see the love letter she wrote to her mom for her birthday on providing her with that figure it out mentality. And I think that's great. One of the things that I think is important is that we do have to figure it out. This mentality really matters to entrepreneurs. I think the people that were really good at figuring it out became really good entrepreneurs. I certainly know, while a very different, kind of relationship with my parents growing up, I was always very much left to figure it out. Very much left to figure it out. And I think that the figure it out mentality really matters, right? For a couple of reasons. Number one, I think resourcefulness breeds independence. When I had my studio and I was working in the performing arts world, there was a notorious creative director in our marketplace, and he would always just blow budgets, and he would hire the best talent. I mean, he would literally hire supplemental roles in a children's theater. He had the most elaborate costume budgets. He had so much time. I mean, he would give himself these long spans of time to put these massive productions together, and hailed himself as a creative. And I always said, creativity comes when you have limited resources, right? So this word resourcefulness. I always would think it was amazing. What could you do on a small budget? What could you do with no talent? What could you do with no time? You churn me up a product in those environments. Now you have really created something. Entrepreneurs often operate with the same things, limited resources. We don't have as much time. We don't have as much money. We don't have, maybe in some cases, we don't have either. But when you have this and you have a figure it out mentality or a figure it out mindset, you actually can become more independent because you're not requiring the reliance of those resources in order to succeed. And here's what's amazing. I always share with my team, I think this is a really important point. If there's no other figure it out mentality point than this one, if you get this one, I think you win. Because here's the thing. We talk about how we are paid by the direct amount of value that we put into the marketplace. But what if we could put that value in without using as many resources? What if our value, right, came with very little cost because we weren't taking the time, the money, the resources to create that value? When you do that and you learn to pivot, adapt, create solutions on the fly, this independence, right? I almost want to strike out the word independence and just put, it's almost like cost-free value that you're able to put into the marketplace. And that is how we're paid, right? That is how we're paid, the amount of value that we put into the marketplace. So this one really hit home for me, that resourcefulness, right? Because again, you're not reliant on time. You're not reliant on money. Those are not the things that help you to problem solve, right? You're able to do it without those items. So failure becomes fuel for growth. Not a political statement at all, but I think one of the terrible narratives out there is that, leaders or public figures or even celebrities in some cases that have failed at something, right? Oh, why would you trust them? They failed. I only trust people that have failed. I really do mean that. In entrepreneurship, failure is guaranteed. If you are a true entrepreneur, you are going to fail. But if you can embrace that idea of figure it out, actually every misstep turns out becoming a chance to learn something new. And so what's really cool is the more failure, the more growth, right? It becomes an absolute fuel for growth. You either find a solution or you're going to gain insights that are going to guide your next move. So I'm going to be honest with you, I love a failure, and I've failed plenty of times myself. And I look to have failures around me because that is where we are able to grow. Confidence through action. We talk about this on our team. What you focus on expands, right? What you focus on expands. Same concept here. Confidence through action. Nothing builds confidence more than accomplishing a task you initially thought was impossible. When I left my last brokerage and I came to eXp Realty, I was told I was going to fail. And I just kept winning because one would led to another, that led to another, that led to another. Every single time I showed myself that I could figure it out, I'm able to become more capable. And that actually fuels bolder moves in the future. See, we talk about, I always have really had a narrow definition of success. Success to me, when it comes to my day-to-day, is when I can take a habit, I can take a new task, I can take a new problem, I can take a new rock, and I can mine it down into something really small, and it becomes just a pebble in my day. And then I have the room to then take another one, mine it down. And so that constant stacking, like habit stacking, right, is what I really look at success. Same thing here. The more times you can confidently accomplish something, the more times you're going to continue to do it, and the bigger and the bolder that action is going to be in the future. And the other thing, adaptability in changing markets. I think that natural problem solvers are just more adaptable. I'm a creative and flexible problem solver. So you can see why this is an attractive conversation for me today. That's my Working Genius profile. I have a lot of adaptability. When the NAR settlement changes came, I put my head down in July, August, crafted a plan for our team moving forward, didn't leave the office for a couple of nights. I think some of you that are probably watching this came in too. We bled that information over to our group. Man, I really thrived in that environment. I know not everyone does. I thrive because I can figure it out. I love the challenge of a changing market, right? And this isn't just how's the real estate market. I mean, new technology, right? Shifts in consumer behavior. Like I just said, new rules of the road. If we can consistently practice this art of solving problems on the spot, you can actually train yourself just to stay ahead of these curves. And here's what's wild. We were trying to go back and figure out, why were our numbers so high at the end of last year when the market really wasn't that different now that we're looking back retrospectively? It's 100%. Because we were adaptable, right? And our people saw themselves winning, right? We go back to that slide before. People saw themselves winning, right? And that kept compounding. Finally, lastly, innovative thinking. Challenges really do often spark the best ideas. The new solution is often just outside of that comfort zone. When you're determined that you're going to find an answer, you're going to have innovative breakthroughs. And I think that's really huge. Here's a quick framework that you can share with others, right? On how do you actually go through this process of figuring it out? So I can go to our NAR stuff, right? We all of a sudden in August, things got stricter. Things seemed like they were coming down the pipeline a lot faster. How we did business really looked like it was going to change. eXp announces that we're not going to do co-broker payments on buyer broker agreements. And so we had to identify the problem, right? And so one of the big problems that we found was agent communication, right? And so then we sat down as a group, we tried to figure out, how are we going to communicate this? How are we going to protect our clients while also encouraging buyers agents to come to the table? How are we going to work through this? And then this is where a lot of people struggle, number 3, because this is the action part. My team has a lot of G frustration on the Working Genius scale. I told them this morning in the same video, this is where the problem is going to lie for a lot of you guys. It's just picking one to test, and here's the word quickly, right? Action takers are money makers. Tina also shared that in her Figure It Out speech. I think that's a good tie-in. I like to say that, it's more costly to sit in inaction than it is to make the wrong decision, right? I just shared with you how much I love failures. Pick one to test quickly. Get out there, put something to the test, and then measure the success and the next steps. Because here's the thing, and John Sheplack hits this home all the time. He talks about professional athletes and how they are so focused on the process. They are not concerning themselves with what the result looks like. They just know if they hone in on their processes, if they hone in on their craft, the results will come. And so that is a big part of this figuring it out, is knowing the beauty in the process. Because if we're only looking for the result, we won't figure it out. We will absolutely go to people to find the answers. We will try to figure out any way possible to not figure it out because we just want that outcome. But if you're really obsessed with processes, this is going to resonate with you today. And I think that this is a really important conversation that we're just not maybe having at a high level. We see it all the time on our team. People just coming into Slack, asking a question that we know good and well they could have spent 10, 15 more minutes on and had the answer themselves. But they're very, very results driven when that's the case. And what we have to do is we have to learn how to celebrate the process. We have to celebrate what's going on well before a result is ever there. So my big takeaways: celebrate the process, get ahead of the curve. I freaking love failures. I love failures. And again, the big one for me was this resourcefulness, right? How do I put more value in the market without taking resources away? So again, figuring out, crucial for entrepreneurs. I hope you guys figure it out today. Last week we talked about who, not how, though. And I think that's an important thing that you pair here, is that we want to figure out solutions together. So in this group thread, what are some problems that you have? But don't just bring us the problems today. Bring us a couple of the solutions that you're kind of working through, and let us help you get from steps 2 over to 3 and really help you evaluate 4, right? So again, this is work that I think we do a lot of times on our own as entrepreneurs. Right here, this brainstorming multiple solutions. Bring your who's, your solutions. And let's see how fast and quickly we can get 3 and 4 done. I appreciate all of you guys. EXP co-sponsoring announcement should be coming out. I'm going to also drop that video in the Facebook group. Make sure that you're in our Facebook group. If we can answer any problems, have any issues this week that you need our attention on, please let us know. And let's go figure it out. Thank you, Tina, for the inspiration on such a great topic. And happy spring break week for some of us.